Hi, it's Stu, and today I'm going to talk about my just now finished Little Free Library book haul. I had a pile of books that I had finished, just wanting to be unhauled, and although I just very recently found the serendipitous 10 books for $5 thrift store, found that to sale, I guess is what I should say, and had that experience. I almost felt like I should just be on hauling. I've been feeling like that a lot lately. And then I get to the little free libraries and I say, I can't believe there's books in here that I just would be very excited to read. And so I feel like I'm getting a little bit more refined. But I hope I'm still keeping some curiosity and open-mindedness, and let me just give this a try. It's not going to sit on my shelf for years and years, maybe a few months, and then I can decide if I'm really going to read it. If not, then I'll just put it back in a little free library. Anyway, the little free library experiences are just so unique in that today I went to a particular, and I call them book boxes, and sometimes I call them book nooks, but I went to one that has sometimes had a book that I would like to read, like one. But I had taken a particular type of book from there that I liked, that was in very good shape. So I had the similar type of book that I was going to return and had it kind of earmarked as the book that I was returning. Well, I went to this, and this was the first little free library I went to in my neighborhood, but a distance that would take quite a while to walk. So I drove there. In any case, I opened the door and joyfully saw that in that little free library, it was full. It was full, and of the books in there, I could have probably just traded my 9 or so books. I think it was 9 or 10, maybe more, because I found some things from older shelves that I just wanted to unshelf. In any case, I could have literally just traded what was in my bag for what was in that little free library. I like to kind of hold myself in the restriction of choice, so I usually limit myself to 3 maximum from any little free library, and of course with a direct trade. Sometimes, again, if I have 2, if it's full like this one, I might take 3 and leave 2 to make them fit. So if they're big books or something like that. But the very next one I went to is usually bursting with books that I can't wait to read. And I had usually in the next one that I went to, I had the experience of the first one. And in fact, it had one book that I was pretty interested, but mainly was cleaned out. There were a couple of the books that I had left there a few weeks ago, some children's books, and then just like 1 or 2 of these other books, of which I picked one. That was all very long-winded way to say you just never know. I mean, that's part of this adventure. Having gone to the neighboring city recently, I'm also just so grateful for these little free libraries in my near neighborhoods. They always have 1 or more. They usually have 1 or more books that I not only could give a chance, but am actually looking forward to read. For whatever reason. I mean, maybe it's just, oh, standing in front of this box, this book is really calling to me and I'm really curious about it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The books I found, why I'm curious, what drew me to it. As you may know, if you've watched any of my previous videos, I don't spend any time, like for instance, looking them up online. I might do at a thrift store, but I don't do in front of the little free libraries. I really just go with not only what's in my hand to trade and thinking about like what would be a good exchange, but also what's just calling to me. So the first one is Louise Erdrich, La Rose. I chose this book because of the cover, honestly. The cover vibed me. The this is a book that I think would be fun to read. I don't have any idea about the premise. As you know, oftentimes I look to see how many other books authors have written, just to kind of give me an idea around, is this going to be a seasoned author or is this a debut? I like diversity in that. And then I like to look at the publication date. And that just kind of also doesn't tell me much, but I'm curious. I'm curious about how long books have been sort of out there before they end up at the Little Free Library. I didn't really look into this book very much, and I still hold that I think this is going to be a fun read. The dates in the beginning and on the table of contents, you know, start with 1999 to 2000 and then kind of move backwards, 1987 to 1970, 2002 to 2003. So this kind of lets me know that there's going to be through the decades perspectives, and I like that. I like that in books. So the next one, and I'm not going in any order of retrieval, it just happens to be how they shoveled around in my box, is by TJ Alexander, and it's This Second Chances in Newport Stephen. It's a queer romance, and I wanted it because I want to make sure that if I'm having romance on my shelf, there's queer romance representation. I loved the cover. I think it's going to deliver just like any romance. It's not really my jam, but it's an entertaining read and something I like to give a chance. I have been wanting to read more fantasy. This happens to be sort of young adult fantasy. This is a book 2 of a series, but I find that fantasy often comes in series, and I think that's part of the thing that sort of intimidates me. And one of the Little Free Libraries, there was like book 1, 2, and 3 of a series. I thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if I was in the space to commit myself to just take those and read that series? But generally I'm not. I'm liking diversity, as I said before, but I just loved this cover. I like young adult, as I've said before, and I just, yeah, I thought that this would be a great book that I have a reasonable amount of enthusiasm to look forward to reading. I have to make sure that young adult and youth books end up sort of represented on my weekly reading challenges, because they're sitting there calling to me, and then they kind of, I think in the last few weeks, I have read not very many. Anyway, this book, The Yellow Birds, I saw it more than once in the same Little Free Library and passed it up. This time, I decided, you know, I pulled that off. I've thought about it more than one time. So this time, let this be the book that I take. I can just tell from the front, which is a little quote snippet from Tom Wolfe, so it's kind of already given the feels. All's quiet on the Western Front of the American Air Wars. Of course, All's Quiet on the Western Front, albeit a war novel, is just such a precious work. And yeah, I'm curious. It's a short read, and it got passed up several times, and this time got grabbed. The Farm by Joanne Ramos. I mean, it's a book called The Farm. It's got women pushing buggies or strollers. Already just that said, you know what, you should read this book. There's a certain amount of curiosity around why would a book be named The Farm and then have those images. So I thought about that a little. I didn't read anything on the back. Obviously, I suspect that this book is going to deal with women's issues and it's contemporary. It's 2019, so I'm excited for this. I had kind of a mystery thriller to trade and into a book box, a little free library where I often trade out mystery thrillers and or book of the month. There's some like kind of random book of the month selections in this little free library. So today my pick, and it really was the only one in there. There were still quite a few of my books in this little free library, but the one book that I thought could be interesting, and actually the cover reminds me very much of a book that it was also under the thriller, gave me thriller vibes, very, very similar fronted book that I found in that 10 books for $5 thrift store place. So I wonder if I'll just read them kind of back to back because they almost give me a very similar vibe. Anyway, Such a Quiet Place. What's next? Okay. Under a Painted Sky. This gives me, I don't know, Australia. I haven't had a whole lot of good experiences with Australian authors in Australian settings lately. So I hope that this turns that tide. Almost gives me young adult. Just looked like it had a lot of potential. These seemingly young boys sitting here with musical instruments looking at a sunrise or sunset gave me some hope and some enthusiasm that this book will be good. I don't know anything about it again, so whenever I do read it, I guess I'll come to those conclusions. This I'm familiar with, and of course, I think was just a precious find. She's been on my radar. We're rolling into Women's History Month, and I just feel like what library, just as I finished Their Eyes Were Watching God, which is just an amazing, absolutely amazing classic. I think also one's bookshelf should be graced with The Bell Jar at some point, and it's a good time for maybe a reread of that one in my life coming up soon. Okay, this is an arc. I think the person who stewards this little free library is just so good. The little free library, it's the one I call my favorite, and it's always just curated so well. There's a variety. There's small paperback, there's mystery, there's arcs, there's like trending literary fiction, like everything in this little free library. And in fact, it's always different. Every time I go, it's always stocked, and they're always different books. I don't think I've ever gone back there and saw a book that I left there from a few weeks ago or something. So all of that to say is this is my final book, and it was out of that little free library, and it's called Seeing Further. As it's an arc, sometimes I get them before publication, and oftentimes I get them, like this. This was set to be published in 2023, so this is out there. So it would have ratings, whatnot, if I were to look it up, which I rarely do until I'm like all the way through or after. Sometimes I like to look up the ratings. I feel like it's almost like having a little kind of mini book club for myself to see kind of what people really liked about the book that I just read, what people didn't really like about the book that I just read, etc. In any case, that feels like a huge haul, and I feel just so grateful for every single one of these books, the authors that took the time to write them, and the time, energy, creativity, and labor to write them, and of course, the people who shared them into the little free libraries so that I might have a chance to experience them and then give other folks the same opportunity to experience them when I unhaul them right back into little free libraries.